Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 2021 edition of our slam presentation for the Cadenza. To take a look inside the Cadenza magazine is a work of students' creative literary and artistic pieces. This magazine contains poetry, prose, photography, graphic design, fashion, and more. At this time, I'd like to take the time out to thank our staff. Um, I had the pleasure of working with Audrey Davis as our art editor, and then we have our writing staff, Kendall Bynes, Ashley Brewster, and Jade Inslee. And we also want to take time out to say thank you to our advisor, Felice Lopez Bell. To start this presentation off, I'd like to take the time to talk about my own works. This is my last year on the Cadenza, and I thought that I would shake things up a bit. And instead of submitting photography, I would submit an oil painting. This is actually my first oil painting ever. I've never done this before, and especially using graphic design to do it. I thought it would be a lot more difficult than it was, but my process was to find the picture, like the photograph of him, and I put it in Photoshop and used the eyedropper tool and an oil brush and pretty much painted over him and then deleted the photo afterwards. And this was the end result, and I really enjoyed doing that. Next, we'll hear from our other editor, Kendall Bynes, and along with him, we'll hear some of the works of some other folks who also submitted to the Cadenza.
Piece is titled August 28th. Another year, another step. Let's hope it's in the right direction. I've made many mistakes. There's no time for recollection. I'm finally at the crossroads. My future is in my hands. The moment that I've been dreading, uncertain and under pressure. I'm knee-deep in split decisions. My future is in my crosshair. With every step, I'm hitting my mark. From birth, we start our own journeys, traveling to worlds unknown. My ship is ready to sail. I'm screaming to no avail. With eyes blind, I stride. I'm nervous under the veil. Walking towards tomorrow, now is no time for worry. Now I open my eyes. For those who've laid the groundwork, I'm building my dreams from the ground up. I took a year detour. My 4 years took 5. My senior year brought more fear, but this odyssey comes to a close, only to open doors. My journey now a beacon, light in a world of shadow. I was never destined to lead. I never wanted to leave. I'm really only a vessel, the fruits of someone's labor. I guess the labor pains were worth it. Your son is paving his way. Constantly doubted my worth, but since birth you were in my corner, pushing to give my all. I never understood because I never saw a reason. Our relationship rocky, nevertheless you always sacrificed. Suffice to say, on this path I stay. This winding road continues. I guess I'll be on my way. Whether predestined or fickle, I'm determined to see it through. I'm determined to finish strong, no deterrence or self-doubt. This is the final bout. My journey is never ending. This route forever winding. I look the silver lining.
When did mental illness become trendy? Facebook is loaded with friends who all brag about their depression and anxiety. I ask myself, do they even know what it's like? Here's an acronym for my anxiety. A is for agitated, because the littlest things can set me off. There, someone is chewing with an open mouth. Across the table, someone is shaking their leg, which in turn is shaking the whole table. But I know that these things shouldn't bother me so much. N is for nausea. I am the opposite of a nervous eater. I can't stand to be around food. I became used to vomiting before school, concerts or performances. That was my normal. X stands for xenophobia. If you know this word, you know it from politics. The Greek word that xenophobia derives from means fear of the stranger. This means ordering food seems like an exam. The simple act of ordering a quesadilla over the phone gives me goosebumps all over. I stands for ignorance. Ignorance is not bliss for me. I question and scrupulate over everything. He hasn't texted me back. I must have made him mad. Maybe he hates me. E stands for eerie. The walk to the trash can in front of the class? I'd rather just hold on to my trash. Walking to get food in the caf? Everyone will stare at me. Asking my teacher if I can use the restroom? I'd rather let my bladder explode. T stands for tension, telling myself to relax, reminding myself to breathe, flushed cheeks and clammy hands, knowing that this pain in my chest is anxiety or I'm having a heart attack. Y stands for yield. I can't do what I want to. I would love to be a people person, to be nice and helpful to strangers, but instead I am controlled by my anxiety. I yell from inside the padded room, but my anxiety won't let me out. So again I ask, do they even know what it's like?
Hey, how y'all doing? My name's Indiana Rotondo. I'm a senior and I'm an English major. Today I'll be reading you guys a poem that I submitted to the Cadenza called Naysayer. I live and breathe for the people that didn't believe I could do it. I bobbed and weaved the negativity because my destiny was great and I knew it. I just pray these kids don't break and have to understand how I went through it. I deplore the people that didn't expect more as they lay helpless on the floor, but I raise a hand to pick them up because a loser should never be sore. Or I pray they experience new light as they learn to take off, fly and soar. But if they don't, then crash at sea and float to the shore. I can't feel for them because their decisions were poor. I can't save their sin. I wish they could have felt the wind, but a battle for blame only makes you rot and melt within. Stop pointing the finger and watch your envy and hate cease to linger. I understand the feelings abrupt can corrupt and have you feeling stuck, but if you still try to interrupt my flux, you won't survive in my ringer. Dead in my vision, in the background an opera singer. Everyone's been killed before, but I'll never be killed again. I always knew what was in store and the treasure I had within. I pray that you learn what this life entails and eventually you can prevail. But for now, you sit still because bringing me down was another goal you couldn't help but fail. I want to thank you guys for listening and have a good one.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Jennings. I'm a senior here at Mars Hill University and an English major, and I wrote Blue Ridge Mountains Are Not Your Home. Barbara and Keith, sitting next to me at the overlook, are bundled like the firewood sold at the gas station at the top of 3 Mile. Their cherry-colored Nissan Rogue is littered with 3 grandchildren stickers and 1 faded Florida Gator sticker. The toothless gator looks like an old man named Herman at the local antique store. As Barbara reaches for her phone, Clinique's happy pollutes the air. If they were to wear any more clothes, I would have mistaken them for Mildred the bear, the many tourists that visit each year on Grandfather Mountain. This happens every year. Cars piled into cramped overlooks like children dressed in their Sunday best, lined up by class to take their annual yearbook photo. I want to tell them that these mountains are not that spectacular, as I see them rolling beyond the horizon every day as I commute to work at one of those overly priced lodges that smell like Benjamins and fancy face powder. I have lived here for 21 years, and these mountains look the same to me now as they did when I was a child. But the Blue Ridge Mountains are not your home, so the thought does not reach the air. They watch as I sit on the same rock wall as they do, the same place where my father got down on one knee and asked my mother one of life's big questions. The rocks under my hand are warm from soaking in the sun's rays. The clouds dance off the backs of the rolling blue mountains, a ritual shared by the 2 lovers for a millennium. The breeze barely kissing the pines, tempting them to sway to the wind's soft beat. Barbara and Keith glower at me in arrogance, Keith's eyebrows resembling the moss growing in between the cracks of the ancient stones. Barbara's thoughts pour through her eyes, much like the fierce water that flows into Linville Falls. How can someone local not appreciate the beauty of God's creation? It's like all of these people live under a rock, maybe even these mountains themselves. My own thoughts came creeping out of every pore of my body, reaching out like the many evergreens touching the sky. Well, lady, many of us do not have the time or the money to leave this place. This is our place, our fortress, our comfort, our family. If you don't like us, then leave. These Blue Ridge Mountains are not your home. The reason I wrote this piece is that I identify very strongly in this place, and it almost seems like I'm romanticizing it, but this has always been my home, and I love it here, and I want to think that no one else can love it as much as I do, but that is entirely not true. And I see that students here that aren't from the area really do find a piece of themselves here. And this is the reason I wrote this piece is simply because this place resembles some sort of home for everyone. So thank you.
To take a look inside the Cadenza magazine is a work of students' creative literary and artistic pieces. This magazine contains poetry, prose, photography, graphic design, fashion, and more. I'd like to take this time out to say thank you all for enjoying and watching our presentation. If you're an aspiring artist or writer and want your works featured in our next edition, you should consider submitting your works to our 2022 edition of the Cadenza. And also, if you find the work that we do interesting and want to be a part of the Cadenza staff, please reach out to Professor Felice Lopez Bell at flopez@mhu.edu or email the Cadenza email with cadenza@mhu.edu. Thank you.